We have team coverage of the shooting with reporters in Shelby and Charleston, and my co-anchor Bill Melugin is in Charleston right now. Bill, what have you been seeing where you are?
Well, Barbara, we've spoken with several people in the community out here in downtown Charleston this afternoon, and right now there is an overwhelming sense of grief, anger, and frustration. 9 people are dead tonight simply because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, praying in the historically black church you see behind me, the Emmanuel AME Church. This is now the deadliest mass shooting in the United States since the Washington Naval Yard shooting back in 2013. I want to go ahead, step out right now and give you a live look at this scene. We are standing on Calhoun Street right now. This actually just opened up a few hours ago, but there is a very sizable group of folks out in front of the church right now. We've seen people leaving flowers, leaving balloons, praying. We've seen some absolutely heart-wrenching scenes out here today. Folks getting down on one knee, putting their hand over their mouth, and just tears streaming down their face. Just some heart-wrenching scenes out here. I think one of the most powerful quotes we've heard from somebody out here so far today is there was a woman just weeping and crying, and she said, "How is it that we let the devil into church last night?" A very powerful quote. A lot of people wondering what happened. For more on that, I want to go ahead and bring in our reporter, Robin Kennedy here. She's been out in the community. We've been talking with several people this afternoon. Robin, just an awful, awful situation out here. What is the vibe you're getting from the folks out here?
People are hurt, they're angry, they're frustrated. But Bill, it is still unclear whether or not that was the weapon that he's accused of using in the shooting.
Right, and right now a lot of folks just waiting for him to be extradited back to South Carolina. We will, of course, keep you posted on that process. And as for how investigators were able to capture Ruff earlier this morning, they were able to track him because they say he used his ATM card at a Charlotte ATM. Workers at the Shell station off of Providence Road said that suspect, Ruff, was in their store around 5:45 this morning. They say he bought several items before leaving and heading towards the Shelby area. That's where he was later arrested. For more on exactly what went down in Shelby earlier this morning regarding the arrest, let's go ahead and toss it out to our reporter, Caroline Fountain, joining us live from Shelby. Caroline? Obviously, right now, a lot of questions about why Mr. Ruff would commit this crime. Again, a lot of folks waiting for him to be extradited back to South Carolina. We've spoken to people out here, both black and white. They both want to see him brought to justice. We actually talked, quite frankly, there is a big race factor being discussed on this street right behind me. It has been all afternoon. We did talk to some white folks who said, hey, we understand a lot of people think white people don't care about African Americans' plight right now. They said that is not the case. A lot of white folks came out here with signs, and they said, we want them to know we are white allies. They want everybody to know that the actions of this one individual do not represent people abroad. But we're going to stay out here right now. We'll check with you guys back in a little later on in the show in about 25 minutes with some reaction from a very prominent local politician out here. Barbara?
Bill, thank you so much.
We're standing in front of the Emmanuel AME Church where the shooting took place last night, killing 9 people. Joe Bruno actually got out here just hours after the reports came into our newsroom. And Joe, what did you notice when you first got out here? What was the vibe like? Welcome back. We are coming to you live from downtown Charleston, South Carolina tonight. We are in front of the Emmanuel AME Church where a horrific shooting took place last night that claimed the lives of 9 people who were just praying inside that church. I'm going to go ahead and step out and show you a live look at the scene right now. People continuing to show up here tonight. You can see flowers and balloons out in the front of that church. Folks have been showing up, giving their prayers, giving their thoughts. We've seen several people crying, wondering how the suspect could just come in here and do this. There have been reports that the suspect, a Mr. Dylan Ruff, was actually inside that prayer group praying with them for up to an hour before he eventually pulled out a gun and murdered those 9 people. 3 men, 6 women and 3 men. One of the men happened to be a South Carolina state senator. And speaking of politicians, I want to go ahead and bring in Robin Kennedy once again, because Robin, you had the unique opportunity to speak with a very prominent figure out here in the Charleston area earlier today about what happened at this church.
Right, Bill. I spoke with Congressman James Clyburn.
Welcome back to our live coverage of the deadly shooting here in Charleston, South Carolina. I want to give you one final update. There is going to be another prayer vigil kicking off in just a few minutes at 7 o'clock here in downtown Charleston. That is going to be at the Second Presbyterian Church. We are going to have a crew there. We will bring you the latest on this horrific story tonight at around 11 o'clock after golf. Back to you guys in the studio.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for Fox 46 News at 10. I'm Barbara Lash.
And I'm Bill Melugin, live on location in Charleston, South Carolina tonight. First on Fox, throughout the evening, we have seen literally hundreds of people show up here to the Emmanuel AME Church to pay their respects for the 9 people who were heinously gunned down inside that church last night. Here's what we've learned this evening. South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley has ordered that all statewide flags be lowered to half-mast for the next 9 days to commemorate the lives of the 9 people who were lost. We also saw 9 roses and 9 ribbons placed in front of the church tonight to commemorate those 9 victims. We also spoke with several interesting people tonight. One woman drove out here all the way from Atlanta after she heard the news about this shooting. She told us she simply felt like she had to come out here and pay her respects. We also spoke to a father who brought out his young son to the memorial tonight, and he told us right now is when it becomes very difficult to be a Christian. Not only do they have to pray for the family of the families of the victims, but the family of the shooter as well, and even more difficult, they have to try and find forgiveness for the shooter himself. I want to go ahead and bring in Robin Kennedy right now. Robin, you've been talking to folks out here in the community all evening long. Go ahead and fill everybody in on what they've been telling you.
Yep, and Bill, we even saw some of them coming down with flowers after those vigils were over, walking down here to the shooting site and leaving those flowers and their support here.
You know, it's also very important to point out this is being investigated as a hate crime, but the people here really quite united. We've seen folks of all races out here coming together, whites, African Americans, really it doesn't matter. Everybody is angry at this one suspect. There have been no fights, there have been no riots, there have been no issues here. We spoke with one man who really told us something interesting. I asked him, you know, it seems like there's some type of an issue that happens like this every 6 to 12 months or so. How do you get past this? He was a resident of Charleston for 25 years. He said, this is how you get past it. Look around, look at all these faces here. Black, white, Asian, everybody coming together. Just something very important to point out. The folks here in Charleston are all one. They are all united, and they are all showing their support for these 9 victims of this terrible, terrible crime. Barbara?
Bill and Robin, thank you so much for that live update.
A community trying to heal. We are live on location here in Charleston, South Carolina tonight, where the community is just trying to make sense of the brutal murders of 9 people gunned down inside this church behind me. Stay with me. We've got more updates for you coming up.
Bill Melugin has been anchoring our coverage from Charleston. He joins us live now with the very latest. Good evening, Bill.
Hey, Jenna, certainly a very big day for the family of the victims in this heinous shooting. They got to see the suspect, 21-year-old Dylan Ruff, for the very first time through a video screen. And one of the most amazing things is as Dylan Ruff is standing there in that room and the judge is talking to him, the judge offered these families an opportunity to make a statement to him, and several of those families did. And what was so amazing is every single one of the families that decided to make a statement today, they all offered him their forgiveness. There was one quote in particular from the daughter of Ethel Lance that really stuck out to me. She said, quote, "I can never hold her again. I can never talk to her again, but I forgive you." She said this all as she was holding back tears. We've also learned that according to the mayor of Charleston, South Carolina, there has been a new fund set up. It's called the Mother Emmanuel Hope Fund, and it's going to bring in money to help the families of the victims here and also to bring in more money for the church. We were told that there was a project that the Reverend Clemente Pinckney had been working on. He was trying to get an elevator set up inside of that church. He passed away, obviously, on Wednesday night, so they are taking in money to try to help finish this project. So far, they said donations have been pouring in. They even received one donation of $25,000 already. Absolutely amazing donation. So we do have some reporters out here with me. We are going to bring you the rest of the coverage from the very emotional moments inside of that courtroom. We're going to have that coming up in just a little bit. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and throw it right back to you in the studio, Jenna.
including our own Bill Melugin. He is anchoring live from Charleston, getting what the community is going through right now. Bill, tell us more.
Jenna, as I mentioned earlier, the big news of the day out here in Charleston is the family's ability to get their first look at the suspect, Dylan Ruff, inside his first court hearing today. Joe Bruno was there with me this afternoon. He was able to hear all of the emotional statements the family's made, and I believe he also got his hands on dozens of pages of warrants for Dylan Ruff. So I want to go ahead and toss it over to our reporter, Mr. Joe Bruno, also live in Charleston right now. Joe? And again, very, very powerful for these families to be able to forgive the man who allegedly murdered their their loved ones in cold blood. Excuse me. We got a lot more live coverage for you. Our reporter Robin Kennedy actually spoke with one of the family members in person after she came out from that bond hearing this afternoon. We're going to show you that coming up in just a little bit. Welcome back. We are live just outside of the College of Charleston right now. That is because there is a massive prayer vigil being held inside the basketball gymnasium for the 9 victims of the Emmanuel AME Church shooting. Now, earlier in the show, we mentioned that we spoke with Charleston's mayor, Mr. Joseph Riley. He told us there has been a special fund set up to help out the victims' families along with the church itself. But he also had a whole lot more to say this afternoon, including his opinion on the death penalty and whether or not the suspect, Mr. Dylan Ruff, should receive it. And he also spoke about the impact, the lasting impact this shooting is going to have on the Charleston community. Take a look. At the end of the day, it's really just been beautiful to see everybody in this city come together. You saw at the end of the video clip there that white woman going to place a flower at the memorial site. She walks away in tears. I can speak for all of us here at Fox 46. We have certainly seen a whole lot of that. Every race, black, white, Asian, doesn't matter. Everybody has come together in the wake of this terrible, terrible shooting. For now, we are reporting live in Charleston, South Carolina. Bill Melugin, Fox 46 News. Jenna, back to you in the studio.